that's when I saw your tears. That's when I got tears in my eyes, and so did Tony. And the thought of what I love is I get emotional. What I love is the comeback story, because in that moment, you could have said, she's right. Because it was already your insecurities.
I did. And when she told me about it, I actually gave it up for 3 months. And if I didn't join Own Your Future Challenge back in May 2021, I would just have not done this at all. But because you said this one thing, you just need to be one chapter ahead. And that gave me the confidence to actually start. And you know, after that, I gave, for 3 months, I gave free classes to 22 people inside my Facebook group. And 2 weeks later, one of them came to me and said, "Hui, can you coach me?" And I was so surprised. I told her, "I'm not a coach." and I just randomly quoted her the price, and she said, "Yes," and she paid in full. The next week, someone else came to me and said the same thing. And I was just like, wow. And I tested it, I raised the price, and she paid in full as well. And I was just so grateful for both of them, because they saw something in me that I didn't see, and that just gave me the confidence to begin.
I just want to tell you, watching the videos and watching you on that boat and watching you on stage, I have goosebumps thinking about the inch, the millimeter. I have some amazing questions that I put together, but I just want to chat with you for a few minutes, because I know in my life, and maybe those of you watching right now, I know I've been in my life that I've been a millimeter. Tony always says a millimeter, not even an inch. I've been a millimeter away from saying, this isn't for me.
Yep.
This isn't going to work.
Yep.
When I was joining this industry, and my sister, who I love dearly, had sat down with me and said, "You're not Tony Robbins. No one knows your name. You don't have an education. You're a blue-collar guy. That's what our family does." I was a millimeter away from missing this.
Yeah.
And the reason Tony and I do these events and we spark and we created something like we created is because of people like you.
And I'm so grateful that you're still doing all these events. You know what? When I first began my first Facebook Live, I was so nervous that I choked 3 minutes in because I forgot to breathe. And I
forgot to breathe after 3 minutes.
I was just holding my breath. And after that, I started gasping for air. My first workshop, the night before, I was just trembling so much. I couldn't even control my body. And I had a thought to actually give up. But I did it anyway, because I was thinking, Tony never cancels his events, so I'm not going to as well.
That's so good. So good.
And then 3 months into my coaching business, I got this phobia of speaking English, because a lot of my audience are international audience, and I used to speak Singlish, which is Singapore type of English.
Okay.
Right? And then
Singlish, I never heard that before. Yeah. Singapore and English at the same
Singapore,
time.
Yeah, but if I were to speak Singlish, a lot of people wouldn't understand me internationally. So I had to learn to train myself to enunciate and to pronounce and speak in a way that the international audience can understand me. And I had to practice, and I kept fumbling, and it was so hard. But what was more difficult was trying to train my ears to understand all the different accents, the Australian accent, the Spanish accent, the French accent, the Italian accent, all in English, right? And then I had a meltdown. There was one moment in that 3 months was when I had a phobia of speaking English. And then 24 hours later, I had another coaching call. And I just got up and did it anyway. And
another one of those millimeter moments where you could have just quit.
Yeah, exactly. And I just...
So I want to, go ahead, I want you to finish that.
In that moment, I actually broke down and cried. I was in a breakout room with someone, and I told them I couldn't take it anymore. And I was just crying inside that breakout room and telling them that I've got this phobia of speaking English. I don't know whether I can do this in the next 24 hours. But in my first year, I was just so obsessed about two things: growing myself, getting my client results. And I just packed my schedule so tight.
You didn't have time to think about it.
I didn't have time to feel any fears or imposter.
There's a great book I read. I'm going to figure out what it is, and I'll recommend it to all you guys. It's a great book I read that said everybody talks about all these things to overcome fear and stressing. It's like, he's like, the only way I got through it is that I just booked my schedule so tight that I had no time to think about my fear, my anxiety, my work. Like I just had to go to the next thing, and then I finally trained myself. And sometimes that might be a thing. Listen, I just want to say, I love the journey you're on. There's people watching right now that maybe didn't have the barrier of English, that didn't have the barrier that your business was just gone, that you had to make this work.
Yep.
And I'm sure in your mind, it's like, if I don't make this work, then what?
Yep.
But the persistence, I love that you took ownership. You got our course 3 years ago and you started working with us.
Yeah.
How cool is it people now have the tool, they got the...
Exactly. I think they're so blessed, because looking at the how Project Next evolved to Launchpad to this, I actually had a chance to look at it last night.
Oh, good.
I was playing with Gigi, and I was like, wow, Gigi created my course in 5 minutes. And I was just following all the instructions by Gigi, and I just picked my course title and I plugged it into the reply, and boom, it just happened. And I'm really amazed.
Listen, we're just stoked to see how technology's kind of caught up with our dreams.
Exactly.
We want everybody to have this experience, right? And if we could make it easier, faster, and quicker. When she got involved, it was a course that was called Project Next. It was the best course we could create at that time.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't what we created now is just the best absolute course we could create at this time.
It's amazing.
And this time we wanted to make sure that we had the options, whether you're new in the game, want to add to a business, you could just follow your track and let Gigi follow you and then put it in the tool. So we're so stoked. I want to ask you, with that journey, almost quitting, scared, crying, almost quitting, tell me where things are at now.
I would actually like to share with you one more story, because that was one of the key moments in my entire last 2.5 years. Because the second day that I decided to become a coach, my dad was hospitalized. At 7 a.m., my mom called me and told me that it wasn't looking good. And for the next 30 days, my dad went from someone who was very strong, very independent, and a pillar of our family. He went and he became very frail and very weak. And I was heartbroken. And in that 30 days, I had to decide, do I continue with my coaching or do I quit? So I decided that I'm going to take care of them first, my mom and my dad. And then the moment that my dad was discharged, I ran the fastest and the hardest that I ever did in my entire life, because I wanted my dad to be proud of me. I wanted to see the smile on his face again after his hospitalization.
I know that he is.
Yeah, and you know what? Because of that, I did my first 100K in 70 days.
So 100,000 in
70 days.
70 days. Give it up for Wee. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I'll always disclaim, not saying you're going to do $100,000 in the first, what days?
70 days.
70 days. It's incredible. But isn't it amazing to see what's possible?
It is.
So I want to know, I know you're doing amazing now. I know your business is booming. I see you all over the place. I see you running ads. You went through the evolution of, like we taught on day 1 or day 2, the evolution of network. You started with your network with 22 people. You start getting sales. Then you start on social. You start delivering value, and then you start running ads. She's at the ads phase. I'm watching her business explode. I can only imagine the numbers you're doing. It's amazing. I want to talk about the other side, the byproduct of you being in control of your future, not worrying about if inflation hits, not worrying if another pandemic hits. Like, you are in control of your future. I would just, there's some people who have never had that experience yet. They're on their journey. They're going to be. You know what's cool is we get to look at some faces. You know, some of them are going to be in this room eventually. And I love that. But where's life at for you outside just the success you're having?
Right now, I think it's been amazing. I see my clients getting the wins and the successes. You know, it's just so fulfilling to be able to do the things that I love to do, right? And to be able to see my clients get the kind of success as well. So just to give you an example, for example, one of my clients, now she can single-handedly help her son to pay for his overseas education. And one of my other clients, she's a cancer coach, and she now helps other people, cancer patients. And amazing. Even her daughter.
And you know what? Sorry, I get excited, but it's the one thing that I really hope you get here too. And maybe this doesn't mean much to you, but if you're here with us on day 3, I know it absolutely does. It's the ripple effect. Right today.
It is.
I know so many of you today are going to say yes to you and keep moving on with us, and hopefully be sitting in a chair like this someday. But you can't imagine the people you're going to affect, who affect others, who affect others. The ripple effect is amazing. It's one of the main reasons Tony and I decided to do this, and we still do it. And we still love it. I mean, literally, I'm not kidding you. Him and I were texting right at the last minute. The countdown timer was going 3, 2, 1, and a text, he's going, dude, kill it. These people need us. They have to stay enrolled. Like, it's just so much fun. And I just want to say thank you for flying all this way to being such an inspiration. One last question. What's one thing you wish you knew when you started that you know now?
Right now, I think one of the most important things is we got to give ourselves permission to be bad before we get good.
Permission to be bad before you get good.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people beat ourselves up when we begin, but it's totally unnecessary, and we can just laugh it off. And if we just laugh it off, it becomes so much easier along this journey. And I just want to say that if we want to have speed of results, we got to take the emotion of the implementation, right? Especially when our fears, our limiting beliefs, it just stops us from moving forward. But if we take massive action, the action will actually accelerate our clarity, and the clarity will bring about more action and more confidence and more certainty.
You know, I got to just say, I could sit here with you for the next hour, right? We have our next guest coming up here in just a second. But I want to tell you, that is so profound and so true. I want to tell you, Tony and I made the decision that last year when you were in the Own Your Future Challenge 2 years ago, right? So much has changed in 2 years for you. Wow. If you notice, day one, we made people say their old limiting belief compared to their new one. You probably saw it. Tens of thousands of people did it, right? This year, we made the decision, said, let's just go get them some action. Let's let them use Gigi to get 6 teaching topics.
And I love that.
And it exploded 10 times the amount of responses because it was the action and the results that just said, I don't care about that stupid story anymore. We just did something.
Exactly.
Right? So you're right on point. Everybody, can we give it up for Wee Wee, please?
Thank you.
Seriously, so good. Thank you. All right, all right. Okay, now you guys ready for what's next? Are you guys ready for what's next? Raise your hand if you're having a good day so far. I got a peach-colored shirt on, for God's sakes. Now, I'm going to tell you, do your best to get the energy, the right energy for this next speaker. I've already kind of whispered on who it is, but this is a gentleman who became a dear friend of mine over a decade ago. Now, if I talk about his credentials, this is a guy with over 60 million views a week on social media. This is a